we know that this process is possible, and so we just keep trying.
We're first-generation farmers raising sheep and poultry on 5 acres here in the Arizona desert. It's not easy, but we believe in raising food the right way, healing the land, and building something enduring. In this video, I want to share how we farm in the desert, what we are doing to raise our animals regeneratively, and how we care for the land even in very dry conditions with little rainfall. We'll share some of the practical things we do to farm regeneratively here in the desert of Arizona, and also share our philosophy behind everything that we do here.
What would you say is the hardest part of farming?
How to navigate different weather events from one extreme to the other.
That's so true.
No matter if it's fair, every day you have to check the weather.
Do you remember when you told me that you wanted to raise chickens for meat?
Yes.
In our city house?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to produce my own chicken so that it could be healthier than the one we were buying at the grocery store.
Because we went to a couple different places and we wondered, what does this organic really mean? And we tasted it and we didn't really see a difference.
Yeah, other than paying a little bit more for the chicken. But
Yeah, that was interesting. Why are we raising chicken in the desert, and why are we raising it outside like this?
Well, we're raising it outside because it's a better way for the chicken to be raised. Just from a natural perspective.
Yeah.
The chicken can do its chicken thing.
When you first told me about raising chicken, we still lived in a city house. When we first were looking into things, I decided to go and say, well, what is the process? So we looked up some YouTube videos and they were talking about how wonderful the process was, and she never once saw the light of day, and that really upset me. I didn't know that my entire life of eating chicken, that's how things were. And so when we talked about making a change, that really weighed on me as being something that I could do personally, something that I felt good about eating. I didn't know how good it would taste though. I know it wasn't as much of an emotional decision for you like I felt like for me. First of all, I didn't want to butcher chicken. I didn't want to have to butcher an animal to eat it. I said, okay, we can raise it, but we'll send it out somewhere. And then we found out there's nowhere to send it out to, really.
I was fascinated by the idea, not just from an emotional level, because I wasn't approaching it that way, but I just felt like it was something that I could provide for my family that you couldn't find anywhere else.
I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since we moved from that city house here to our 5-acre property in Vail. I am so amazed at what we've been able to accomplish, although sometimes it seems like we can't build fast enough, we can't grow fast enough. After we saw such a great success with our chicken and eggs, we soon added turkeys and sheep to the mix. We've also recently added ducks, and we're having an abundance of eggs now, and we've already had some whole roasting ducks. There's nothing like being able to raise and provide for your own family meat that you know every moment what intention has been put into that, care and thought. It really is an honor to be able to provide that for our customers, our community, to say, I know how it was raised, I can show you. And people really connect with that. The way that we choose to run our animal operations is really based on the idea that nature does know best, and animals are equipped with what they need in order to be healthy, but we have to provide them the right environment and to not meddle with the basic way that their bodies function, and that is by providing clean air, fresh water, fresh ground, and giving them a low-stress environment. With this, they're able to be as healthy as possible. It really is amazing when you go back to the basics and you see what the animals' needs are. And it's just for them to first feel safe, and then to know and expect when their food is coming, to provide them with healthy food. And we avoid anything that has to do with man-made chemicals as much as possible. Things like synthetic vitamins have their place, but really, nature knows best. Sunlight has vitamin D for them. Plant matter has everything they need. And for most cases, when we've had things like injuries or sickness, we've had really good success using natural herbs and minerals to help them recover. For our sheep operation, we mainly raise them for meat, and although we would love to have grass pasture for them on our 5 acres, We're divided by a wash, and some of that is taken up by area that really can't be grown to pasture, plus our limitations on water. So what we do is we provide them a high-quality hay that's grown locally, is actually pesticide-free, organic, grown just about 25 minutes away from us, and also eating any grasses that will come up after a monsoon or after the winter rains. The sheep have a couple of acres to roam, and they eat mesquite pods and eat leaves off of trees. They do a lot of browsing. We also had our very first lambing season, and this is my first experience with anything like this. And they all did great. All of the ewes did great. We had all but one have lambs, and some of them had twins. So we ended up with 7 ram lambs and 5 ewe lambs, and we couldn't be more excited. And we enjoyed the process so much. I especially just loved having baby lambs around and being able to care for them. I was very grateful that everyone turned out very healthy, and we had a great experience. We were very grateful to have had a successful lambing season, and everyone turned out healthy. Even though I did had to pull one lamb from one of the younger moms, and he turned out great. Although it was a very stressful time and I had a lot of worries, I honestly can't wait for our next lambing season. We've always started off with little chicks to begin with all of our birds. Some of those we've hatched our own, and others we've ordered. And with all of them, we've done our best to raise them regeneratively. And that means anytime we use our brooder, we save all of the wood chips and we put it out onto our compost pile. And it always ends up high in nitrogen. We've been able to turn a problem really into something that can enrich our soil. We've used it on trees and on the area that we're planting grass. And I'm really excited to start the garden this year with that pile of wood chips. I know it's not the best example of stewardship per se, but it's been the slower version of a compost pile, and I can't wait to see how well things grow in that area. We're also looking into ways of making compost so that we can reduce waste in other areas of our farm, including during our processing. As with anything, the slow way is often the better way, even though it requires a lot of patience and sometimes a little bit of extra work. We move our chickens here on pasture. That allows them to stay safe because the meat birds are not as agile. And so we use this Siloton style, what we call a tractor, which is just a movable coop. And we move this every day. Sometimes we have to move it twice a day. And it provides clean ground because meat birds produce a lot of waste because they eat a lot. This gives a lot of nitrogen to the soil, but we need to give them clean ground to keep them healthy. And so we follow this model, and we've been really pleased with our success here. And so this is what a lot of people do in order to keep them safe while they're still able to have an abundance of fresh air and clean ground every day. And you'll find them picking the grass, scratching for bugs, and just generally soaking up the sun. Because vitamin D is so important for all creatures. Sunlight is one of nature's miraculous things. In fact, that's part of the reason why moving the coop helps them to stay healthy. Because when you move the coop, the ground can then be sterilized by the sunlight.
When the grass starts to do this, it's because the roots have established really well underneath it. So now it says, I'm going to put energy to grow.
This guy's winning to the line.
Yep. And so we're going to encourage it so you can keep winning.
These guys are running behind.
Once this kind of shoots off like that, all these little bottom parts right here,
It's like fireworks.
it's gonna create little roots, and then it's gonna create a new one, then a new one, then a new one.
Yeah, it goes all over her entire earth.
This whole area was completely barren. It was sandy, there was nothing to it. There was not even really any natural weeds growing. We chose this area as a pasture because it was the most flat area that didn't have any, really big rocks or anything like that. We had to remove a couple of creosote, which is kind of like these little bush things that you see there. An interesting fact about that is that they use the roots medicinally, but it actually will kill other plants around it. So if you try to grow things around creosote, things will wither up and die. So it's kind of an interesting thing about creosote. You find them in really arid regions, and this area is also very sandy, which allowed the creosote to thrive. But of course, we didn't really want that in this area, so we removed those, and we've planted grass here. But back in here, this was completely sandy. There was nothing to it. And let me see if I can show you a little area that gives you an idea of exactly how bad it was initially. So we've run the chickens all the way up to the fence here, but you can see out basically on the road, you can tell this is how the whole land looked. And now we're starting to get this layer here from where we had all of the chickens and turkeys. And it's kind of adding this coat on there, keeping the rainwater from just rushing off and adding some matter, because in order to plant grass, you need enough for the seed to hold on to and enough to actually hold water so that it doesn't just flow through like a filter. There's not really much you can do unless you amend it. You can't just throw a plant in it and call it a day. Every chore that we can, we think about how can we save water, and one thing that we
utilize the water.
Yeah.
Benefit everything else.
Exactly. So we wash waters, we fill waters over a plant or by a tree. And when we process our chickens, we do that as well. We make sure that the water is going to actually be used for multiple purposes at once. So it's not about just not using any water, it's about using our water in a smart way. Okay, so here comes the toilet bowl scrubby.
Highly technical
Yeah,
thing.
very technical. We're using toilet bowl scrubby to
If we
clean
can
water.
start to talk about all these things in its exact specifications and thickness.
Yeah. That's what happens when you bring an engineer into farming. He can't help but talk about specifications or differentials. Differentials is a good one. Temperature differentials is very stressful around here.
Yes, it is.
So not only are we providing clean ground and fresh air, but they in return are giving us tilling and fertilizing of the soil at the same time, and so that future generations of birds can have a nice lush green area. And we try to give them a little bit of each, but you know, right now we're working with what we can by starting it off from seed. You know, everything has been really, even the grass has been bootstrapping this operation. When you start talking about regenerative farming, you almost get this idea that right away you can just green everything up and fix it all. But the reality is it takes so much time and patience, and that's really a huge part of what regenerative farming is being patient with the earth and understanding the limitations of your environment, of seasons, and just respecting that in general. So that's something that we've learned, and we've had to be really patient in trying to get this grass to grow, because we'll get it growing and then, you know, the birds will eat it, the bunnies will eat it. And then it's just really trial and error to try to figure things out, you know, especially not using chemicals and things like that. It takes time, but we know that this process is possible, and so we just keep trying. You chased a chicken and a guinea. That's so naughty.